So we have seen how amazing the convocation ceremony has turned out this year. I mean, it's still going on, but so far, so good, right? And now it's time to talk to the brains and, well, brains, brains and the beauty behind this the entire convocation. Now, this is our third convocation ceremony in the University of Lagos, and so far, it has only gotten better and better and better. Like we said, when we streamed yesterday, we did tell you guys that things have taken a higher level this time around. This school is slowly going towards the global, standard that the VC has envisioned for the school. Now we are going to talk to her directly and find out what other plans do we have. I mean, convocation has been good so far.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what are the plans?
Yes.
And why don't you wait till tomorrow? Let me say that tomorrow is when this afternoon will be similar to the ones we've had. Mm-hmm. But tomorrow is always the time when we have to deal with a lot of dignitaries and we're giving honorary awards to really distinguished people. Yeah. I think one of the things we decided was that when we give honorary awards, they must be deserving. It's not, you could do things for us and so on, but that would not be the reason. It's also what have you done things to support the country or one way or the other, and education, but not necessarily education. Because really, for us, if the country is doing well, we're all doing well.
Yes.
So we choose who we give awards to very, very carefully, very deserving. And I think we have 3 deserving people tomorrow.
Yes,
Mr. Foladiola, Mr. Kola Additional, and should I say Dr. Kola Additional, and then Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. So, and we also look for people who have integrity. I think it's a hallmark. The nation needs more people of character, which means they're ready to take tough decisions, even if it's not popular.
And they're not going to get compromised.
They're not. Yes, it's very hard in Nigeria if you don't intentionally refuse to compromise. So we want people who are not populist but have a goal, and they face that, because you'll find we're a country of many people would want exceptions, and that's how things derail. So these are people who stand for what they believe.
And they stand out.
And they stand out. And those are the kind of people we want Unilag students to be. People who are outstanding and who are known for something and something good, so.
Yeah, speaking of outstanding, we had 2 perfect scores this session. As the VC, that would definitely have made you feel so proud.
Oh, I did. I felt extremely proud because getting 5.0. That's
not just one.
No, 2 of them. Oh, we have more at the PG level.
Yes.
The masters we also have. Yeah. I'll say this, and it's a quote. I read it sometime that was said by Harvard. Mm-hmm. I can't remember who. But when they asked why Harvard did so well, and they said, it's not that, because there are many very good schools in the US as well.
Definitely.
But why is Harvard so outstanding? They said it's the quality of the intake, that they very carefully choose vet the intake. If you take really weak students, no matter how good the school is, it can make them average, but they're not likely to fly. But if you take somebody who is already good, the work is reduced. And what I have found in the last few years is that the caliber of students coming in has been absolutely amazing. The competitiveness. People will say, they did very well. I say, yes, but there were so many that did better.
Very well,
And it's not that those who we cannot take, it's not that they're bad, but they're
better people.
They're it's really scary sometimes, because when you see some scores and they can't come in, and we've tried to maintain merit, it's very hard, but we're very clear. We don't even talk about admissions till we've taken all the merits, and then we deal with vacancies later. So it's the merits coming, and it has shown in the kind of students we see. That we're now producing.
And I think that's 61.
And I can tell you it's not easy to get that here. Yeah. For you to do that, every student goes through like 12 lecturers. All of them cannot be easy.
Exactly.
Or, you know, they're quirky lecture. I mean, by the very nature of academia, you expect to have eccentrics, you expect to have, you know, all sorts of people. So if you have that, it's much more than just scores. There's also character somewhere there, discipline, because it's not an easy feat. I couldn't do it. So I really look at them with great respect.
I mean, it doesn't matter. You're here now. And speaking of, you know, the quality of products we are now putting out.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to acknowledge the internships that, you know, have made Unilag proud on such a global level. You know, the Bank of America that you spoke about.
Oh, and they're not the only. Yeah,
they're not the only
one. The
one.
students are, one of the things we recognize is that it's not just about what you learn in school. We have to expose students
to other opportunities.
Yes. So we are very intentional in bringing people in to talk to them, to work with them. We're very intentional about, and wherever we find it, having them go into competitions, because really it builds not just the skills, it also builds your self-confidence.
And character.
Yeah, character. And it builds, you know, it exposes you. And you learn things that we don't even begin to know, you know. And I have not yet met any student that's been exposed, that hasn't had exponential growth in their marks. So, and which says it's not just what they saw there. And what we're then trying to do also is to improve the way we train, and we're exposing our lecturers also to new ways of training.
Yeah.
Because really, at the end of the day, it's not how many people did you teach, but what were the learning outcomes. So we all know that lectures are not the best, so we need to have more group work. But that also requires resources. It requires group. I mean, apart from lecturer competencies in managing group work, it also requires space, and we need more lecturers. Those kind of training require more faculty.
Okay. What are those plans towards increasing those internship opportunities?
Some of that can be in-house, but I think a lot will do with
collaborations.
The collaborations. Let me put it this way: if we were to own all of them, it will require major shifts in national policy on how academia is viewed and rewarded, because the Japa syndrome has really decimated our ranks.
Honestly.
And it is hard to ask people to stay when universities abroad are taking them and paying them times 10. Wow. You can't compete.
Definitely not.
We have this narrative, the universities are bad. They're not that bad. But we have work to do to ensure we retain our best. Definitely. So what we have done is also to reach out to alumni and friends, join us, donate time, donate your industry, donate. So it's a movement. Are we where we want to be yet? Not quite, but we keep moving. And then we also encourage, when we get grants, to also have training grants in there. So you'll remember we have the Coursera, and we've incorporated some of these into courses, so that by the time you're finishing some courses, you are certificated in areas of skill. And we intend to do more and more of that. So we don't have to do all the training ourselves. We can borrow established courses from great universities, either on Coursera, there's edX for Harvard and so on. So we're looking at curating that. And I think the Faculty of Management Sciences has done that very well, adding some of these courses into and I think computer science as well.
I mean, computer science has to.
Yeah, they've done that.
Their course is one that evolves.
Exactly. So I'm seeing that, and I think engineering, so that it's been incorporated. But what we also did was to bring in industry and other stakeholders to co-create curricula with us, so that the curriculum is not the old,
it's not the one in the past.
Rigid. Yes, and we're beginning to revisit, the kinds of departments we have. Now we're not there yet. Changes. You can't change too many things at the same time. Well, my hope is that as time goes by, our departmental names will be around functionalities rather than I'm the Department of Computer Science. I'm the department, it will be around something, a function. And that's what you'll find in many places, and combining things. So the world that we're moving into has those complexities, and we have to reflect it in the university.
I have to say, I hear the plans towards these global standards that we're trying to achieve.
It's very hard.
And that's beautiful, honestly.
Yeah, very challenging circumstances.
A bit away from the students, right?
Yeah.
You spoke about grants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was one grant in particular, I think over $45,000 or something like that.
Oh, $450,000.
$450,000. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
How do we, put Unilag in a location or in a particular spot where we have more access to stuff like that?
Grants, it's a very complex business. A lot of grants need to be given within your own country. And the country is beginning to rise to that challenge. Let me use the US because they have quite a great, especially, where you have grants tailored to new academics. So, especially in health, I can use that. We have what you call the K Awards. It's for young lecturers. And part of that is that as they apply for the grants, they only compete with their peers. Okay. So they're not competing with established researchers. Yeah. And those grants also require that they are mentored. So they're mentored research grants. Yeah. Well, it is competitive, but it is tailored to them. Yeah. So you have all these grants at different levels. Exactly. There are grants for training grants on how you improve some kind of knowledge you want to share. Yeah. Then you have other grants. Now, what happens is we here, because our country, industry, don't give out research grants too much. The country gives out TED fund grants. Yes. But it cannot service the vast, it's not, they're not enough. Yes. We're huge. Yeah. Actually, if TED fund was in a country with 5 million people or 10 million, it would have been adequate. But what I tell people every time is Nigeria is really trying, but everything you do must be done at scale. Yes. So if you hit 2 million people in Nigeria, it's as if you haven't done anything. Really, but if 2 million people are done in Denmark, that has a population of probably, I can't remember very well, but I think it's less than 10 million. That's a fifth of the population. Yes. So when people are talking, I always say, remember the size of the population. Yes, if they tell you we have all the HIV in the world, the rates are low, very low, 1.2% of 200 million. Yes. Whereas a smaller country, I remember that time, Botswana, had a 33% HIV infection rate. But they were only was it 2 million or 3 million? So the total number didn't make any sense, So even the poverty capital, I would like to know, it's the numbers, but when you do it in terms of percentages, you might find that the rates are lower. But I'm not saying that poverty has increased in the last few, and I have no figures on that. Yes. So what we advocate, every country is supposed to have a percentage of its GDP on research. We haven't hit it. I think it's supposed to be 1% or 2%. I don't think we're 0 point something. But it is hard. It is hard. But more importantly, it's a collaboration between industry, government, and academia. Yeah. When people say the research we're doing is not good, it's not that it's not good in itself intrinsically, but it may not be answering questions. So countries that have made it involve academia so that we know the problems and they challenge us to do so that students are doing research that solve the country's problem. The staff are doing research to solve the country's problem. And the job of the country is to create, through a national research fund, or group, looking at the problems in the country and giving or saying, these are the problems. Send out what we call research questions that you want answered. Yeah. And that's where the universities take their cue. So the whole research thing is a very organized sector, which we have not quite mastered. Yeah. It is happening. It is sort of slowly evolving, but we can move it forward faster if we are a little more, if we collaborate, if we're deliberate, And it's not just us and government, it's us and industry. I was talking to someone yesterday, they had said, oh, there's something that they need, that they have to go and buy abroad. And I said, but have you challenged us? Have you brought it here and said, we need this thing to be done? The Air Force worked with universities. There was a time they had a problem with, I think, brake parts.
Okay.
And they worked, and I think University of Lagos was one of that. And it was done. And then they now use that, and it is about 1/10 or 20th, if I remember well, of the cost they were using to bring it. But more importantly, capacity has been built. One of the things that came out of the convocation lecture is that when you move, we're borrowing things from abroad, but we must have an exit strategy. At what point do you say you have fully transferred? That means if industry is doing something that requires importation, they should bring us in so that we're there also learning and studying. Yes, when people bring in things from abroad, for example, during the HIV, which I always feel was we wasted a lot of resources. A lot of NGOs came up, and a lot of things were done with NGOs,
yes,
but not much with the tertiary institutions, only a few. Now imagine if all that money came into the tertiary institution. We are a multiplier. Yeah. We amplify. So if the faculty, the health workers and all those people who are in the teaching environment, they would do research. We did a bit, but I'm just saying that the volume that came was very little.
And then the support didn't
imagine if we would have been training people based on best practices.
Yes.
But we came in later. But I think the strategies are beginning to change. For a country that wants to transit, you can't do it without academia.
Definitely.
Not possible.
I mean, the best brains are in academia.
Yeah, we can't.
All right. Thank you very much. That has been very, very insightful, if I do say so myself. We have been talking with Professor Folashade Ogunshola, the VC of the University of Lagos, University of First Choice, and
the nation's pride.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.